Hello friends. Today in this video, I am going to be telling the story of the 2021 Netflix original series Clickbait. Clickbait is about a family man that is kidnapped and abducted, and later a viral video is put out on social media saying he is a killer, and if the views get up to 5 million, the kidnappers are going to kill him. It is a fun thriller series that has many twists and turns throughout. I am going to be recapping each individual episode of the series, so if you just want to recap one episode, you will find the timestamps in the description below. But if you want to watch the whole thing and save yourself 7 hours, since the ending can be a little disappointing but still get the full story, stick around for the rest of this video. Obviously there will be spoilers for the whole show, but with that said, let's get it started. Episode 1. The Sister. Episode 1 of Clickbait Season 1 begins with a family birthday dinner. Everything goes awry though when Pia lashes out over her big brother Nick getting their mom the wrong present. After ruining the entire evening, self-absorbed Pia leaves the room, heading off to get drunk and establishing herself as the absolute worst character in the show. After dropping her phone in the toilet, she heads home for the night. Pia is a nurse too, as we soon find out, and as she heads in to see her patient Vincent the very next day, they end up stumbling upon a viral video. This video includes her brother Nick sporting a cut across his forehead, holding a number of posters claiming he abuses women. Now, if this video reaches 5 million views, then he is going to be killed. Pia wonders if this is fake or a prank Nick is pulling. Pia finishes watching the whole video and immediately heads over to Nick's house to speak with his wife Sophie. Pia reports the video to the police, but with it now at 9,000 views, it's definitely a race against time. Pia's obnoxious and erratic behavior continues through this interview, as she struggles to bite her tongue when Detective Ayres arrives on the scene. He's overseeing the case now and remains determined to take things seriously, but she thinks he is a joke since he is newer on the force. Well, things certainly get serious when a second video crops up on the internet. This one is similar to the first, but has Nick holding a sign reading, "I kill women." However, the handwriting isn't actually Nick's, so it could easily be the perpetrators. Either way, the video hits 1.5 million views and continues to go viral. Pia heads to her friend Vincent's and begs him to hack Google for her. Vincent tells her that's not possible, but he will help her find her brother. They check Reddit and find out there are all "Find Nick" campaigns started. Internet nerds are trying to locate his exact location. A detective from Norway sees a sticker that could definitely hint at where Nick is being held. The sticker is only found within one specific delivery truck brand, which narrows down the search immensely. However, the original video hits 5 million views and time runs out. Just as it does, Ayres gets a call for a delivery van matching the description Pia gave them. They show up and surround the vehicle, but before we can see what happens next, the episode ends. Episode 2. The Detective. Ayres and the cops open up the van, but there is no one inside. This episode is going to be centered around mostly Detective Ayres and what he is doing to locate Nick. The police decide to make this case priority number 1 in their investigative department, and they are going to be working on it night and day. Ayres begins looking around Sophie's social media feed for clues, because whenever something like this happens, more times than not it is due to the spouse wanting them out of the picture. One of the detectives, DeLuca, asks the family members to hand over their phones so they can go through them, but Ayres tells him that is not legal as they do not have a warrant to take them. Early on we see Ayres is a good cop and does things by the book. Later, Pia realizes that her and Ayres actually matched on Tinder a few months ago, but never got around to actually meeting up because Pia lost her phone. She is not good with phones, is she? With the public still on the manhunt for Nick, a genius creates an app called Geonicking that is supposed to help with missing person cases, and it is done by individual users mapping out places they have already looked as a whole and seeing what is left. Pia shows Ayres the last voicemail she received from Nick, hoping it could help. Nick had something to tell her and wanted to meet up privately, but she doesn't know what for. Ayres is granted permission to take her phone into evidence and investigate it more. Ayres learns that a few weeks ago, Nick was bruised everywhere on his body, but he told Pia it was just from basketball, which she found suspicious. Ayres uses the tracker app, which leads him to a bar where he sees on the CCTV footage that Nick got into a fight with someone inside, and they both had to be kicked out. This must have been when he was bruised up. Ayres starts butting heads with his partner, DeLuca, at work because they do things totally different, and Ayres actually has morals and is a good cop. They end up going to check out a remote area in the woods that hadn't been covered by the app, and when they get there, they find Nick's dead body by the shore, and Ayres sadly has to tell the family and Pia the news. Ayres does end up getting promoted after the case for his great detective work. The episode ends with Amiri discovering Sophie may have been having an affair with the guy Nick got in a fight with. Episode 3. The Wife. The episode opens with Sophie receiving the devastating news Nick is dead and the autopsy will be conducted soon. Sophie is then called in for questioning and is shown the bar footage. Sophie plays dumb at first, but then Amiri tells her they know she used to work with this man, Curtis Hamilton. She says they were just friends, but flashbacks show that they were in fact having an affair. Sophie is free to go, and when she gets home, she has to tell her children the news as well. Later that night, when everyone is sleeping, Sophie sneaks out to confront Curtis herself, and he said they met at the bar because Nick found out about the affair and wanted to know every detail, and that's why they got in a fight. He says Nick provoked the fight, but the security footage shows different. Then DeLuca and Amiri show up to arrest Curtis on a bench warrant, and when Amiri sees Sophie there as well, he brings her in for questioning once again. Now the truth of the affair comes out to everyone, including Sophie, telling them she told Nick about the affair a while ago, and he did not take it well and almost got physical with her before storming out of the house, obviously trying to play the victim now. As news of the affair becomes public, Sophie finds her life upside down when a woman named Emma Beasley shows up in town. Emma tells Sophie that Nick was having an affair as well, and she was the other woman. He used a fake name, Danny, and they met on a dating app. It would appear that Nick hooked up with her to get back at Sophie, but then we are shown this account was created 2 years ago, not 6 months ago. We are left wondering maybe if he was the one that cheated first to end the episode. Episode 4. The Mistress. Emma Beasley is then interviewed by Amiri, and she claims they were in love and soulmates. Amiri definitely suspicious of this broad. Emma even has pictures showing they went away on holiday together. Emma just saw he died on the news, and she wanted to attend his funeral until she learned he had been living a double life all this time. She had no idea he had kids and a wife. Emma thought they were about to get married. Sophie is definitely suspicious of this Emma chick because she didn't think Nick would ever have it in him to cheat. I'm not a fan of Sophie. Emma heads up to the school that Nick taught and coached at and speaks to Nick's best friend Matt, and they reminisce on how good of a guy Nick was. Emma, you didn't even know his real name 2 days ago. Pia heads to see Matt not long after Emma leaves and asks him about the affair, and Matt tells her he had no idea Nick was doing that. He does point her in the direction of Emma, so she chases after her and talks to her for a bit. Emma tells Pia about stories they experienced together, and while Pia is still fishy of her, she grabs her phone number in case anything else pops up. That evening, Emma receives a threatening phone call in her hotel, telling her to go back to San Francisco immediately and never return. Emma, obviously freaked out, gets in her car and drives away, but in doing so, she is rammed from behind by a car that knocks her off of the road. She survives and ends up in the hospital where she talks to Pia and Amiri about who could have done this and who wanted her dead. Amiri also informs Emma that Nick's Tinder profile had actually been talking to numerous girls over the past 2 years on the app, which upsets her. A few days later, Emma meets up with another girl Nick had been talking to, and since they both are pissed at him, Emma goes on live TV and outs Nick as the serial cheater he was. Episode 5. The Reporter. This episode follows Ben Park, who is the reporter that landed the interview with Emma outing Nick as cheater. Ben's boss Dakota tells Ben he did a great job, but now he needs to land an interview with Sophie to blow this story up even more. Ben poses as a delivery driver and pretty much breaks into their house and snaps a bunch of photos inside. Pia and Sophie find him and order him to get out of the house. At home, Ben and his partner set up dating profiles to try and find all of Nick's fake profiles he had. They discover all of the accounts link back Oakland High School, which is where Nick worked and coached volleyball. Apparently, one of the volleyball players was rumored to have been with Nick as well. Talk about speaking ill of the dead. Dakota tells Sophie that she should give an interview to lay off the media frenzy at home, and Sophie says she will consider it if he takes Ben off of the article because he broke into her home, and Dakota obliges. Ben, being upset, manages to find another alias Nick was using online, which leads him to another victim, Sarah Burton. Ben discovers that this chick is actually dead and did it to herself after Nick told her he didn't want anything to do with her. Ben sees that Sarah had a brother named Simon, so Ben heads over to his apartment to ask him some questions. No answer, so he thinks it is a good idea to break in again. Snaps some pictures and is almost caught, but he sneaks out at the last second to hide in Cam's car. Something came out of it though, as Ben uncovers threatening messages between Nick's profile and Sarah, which Ben takes to his boss to get back on the case. Ben then releases a story about Sarah's death, and the episode ends with Simon horrifically watching the segment, knowing someone broke into his place. Episode 6. The Brother. The episode opens 6 months in the past when Simon is warning Sarah to not get attached to any guy she meets on Tinder. If only she would have listened. Back in the present, Amiri shows up at Simon's house to interview him with everything going on. Simon says he was out fishing with his friend Daryl during the time that the Clickbait Nick video was released, but Amiri isn't fully convinced and is skeptical Simon is still hiding something. Back at his work desk, Simon shoots Daryl a message pretty confirming the skepticism and tells Daryl to not answer his phone or go home until they can get their stories straight. Another flashback shows Sarah crying to Simon because this Jeremy guy broke her heart, and this eventually led to her doing what she did, and Simon saw the messages they sent each other, so he has a pretty clear motive to kill this Jeremy guy who he thinks is Nick's alias. Back a few days ago, Simon and Daryl investigate Jeremy's profile, and they are able to find Nick's real name online with the same pictures and everything, and then they go to kidnap him and drug him unconscious. Back to present day, and Amiri and Pia have been hanging out now, and they actually share a kiss with one another. The next day, Amiri goes to arrest Simon because he has enough evidence now putting him as the kidnapper. We cut back 11 days to see what really happened that day. Simon and Daryl were responsible for the video and forced him to hold up the signs. Simon does say that Nick was pleading for his life the whole time and adamant he didn't do whatever they think he did. Nick even tries saying the photos on his profile are doctored and aren't even really him. Simon started to believe he was telling the truth, and when Nick freed himself from the ropes, Simon let him run off and didn't hurt him. With Simon now presumably not the killer, the scene cuts to Nick's son Ethan messaging someone called Al. They claim to be good at keeping secrets, but they are definitely hiding something. Episode 7. The Son. This episode is obviously more focused on Ethan and what he has going on. One night at dinner, Pia is over and she tells the family that Simon wasn't really the killer and he just kidnapped him because he thought Nick was responsible for his sister's death. Pia still believes Nick wasn't the person behind the Tinder accounts, and she's not going to rest until it's proven true. Ethan continues to talk to his new online pal Allison, and Ethan begins wondering if this person is actually who they say they are and not the same person that was behind the Tinder accounts. Ethan wants to clear his father's name though. Ethan starts messaging some of the women that dated Nick, but he uncovers the fact that none of these girls actually ever met him in person. It was all online dating, and any pictures that Nick sent were doctored in Photoshop. Pia learns of this and thinks Emma is the one responsible for Nick's death with the lies she told. Ethan hesitantly meets up with Allison, and she is in fact a real person, just sick and can't leave her house. Allison is computer smart and is able to find a recording of Emma saying she didn't actually meet Nick in person ever and the vacations and hanging out was all a big lie. Allison keeps a recording of the confession. Pia finds out that Matt was the coach that was hooking up with one of the volleyball players, but everyone thought it was Nick, and Matt just let Nick take the fall because he was dead and he didn't want to be ousted as a bad person. So now we wonder if maybe Matt is the killer and Nick was about to tell the truth about Matt's inappropriate relationship. Kai, Ethan's brother, notices Ethan's computer left open, and he sees a message from Allison where the address the Catfisher lives is. Kai grabs a baseball bat and heads over to the address by himself. Episode 8. The Answer. Series Finale. Kai shows up at the Catfish house where it is revealed to be Dawn. Dawn was Nick's assistant and secretary at the school who had access to his computer and files. She and her husband Ed invite Kai inside, but as they do so, Ed gives Dawn a nasty look and we can assume that he knows all about her catfishing festivities and is not happy with her. He even grabs a gun and prepares to leave. Flashbacks show how Dawn got access to Nick's pictures and files and how she set up the catfish accounts because she was lonely and Ed wasn't giving her the attention she wanted. She wanted to feel loved and got off on the feeling of speaking to these numerous women acting as if she was really Nick. It was all just a game to her, and she didn't think how it would affect everyone in Nick's life. She would use a voice distorter whenever she talked on the phone with these women, who Emma was the main attraction who she loved talking to. One night, she is caught by Ed, who is greatly disappointed and wants nothing to do with her because he feels that he isn't enough for her anymore. Back in the house, Ed and Dawn pack up their things and they put Kai in their car saying they will take him home. But then Dawn and Ed eventually drive up to a caravan, where the boy is encouraged to get out and Ed points a gun at his head. It is then revealed that Dawn and Ed were the ones that killed Nick. When Nick freed himself from Simon, Nick knew it was Dawn that had access to all of his information and pictures. Nick went straight over to their house and threatened them with the police, and Ed freaked out and killed him, and they then dumped his body out near the lake. My only question is, why would Nick go straight to their house? Why not go home and let your family know you are safe, and then worry about making sure Dawn goes down for her crimes later? We then jump back to the caravan where the police have shown up, and Ed can't bring himself to shoot Kai, and then the cops end up shooting Ed dead. And the series ends with Pia and Sophie patching up their differences and finally ready to let Nick go. And that is how this one ends. A fun series with a disappointing ending. We barely saw Dawn the whole series, and then out of nowhere at the end, she is the catfisher and killer? Always hate when the reveal is someone you don't really even meet because it's impossible to crack the code while watching the show, which is the fun part. But anyway, I appreciate you for watching the video. Have a great day.